So it was actually a program, but there was individuals, possibly more than one, who were the go-to guy for the CIA if they wanted to recruit assassins. And that guy was codenamed QJ Win.
Okay.
We just found out another guy who was sort of peripherally connected to the same thing. His name was W.I. Rogue, and we just found out who his identity was.
What a name.
Yeah, well, they're all, the CIA's got like the two, letters followed by the like name, like Amlash, JM Wave, right? That's how they sort of set up their numerics or alphanumerics or whatever. So he thinks he was QJ Win. Other people think somebody else was QJ Win. But he made a good case to me, and he gave me like a whole org chart. He made a good case to me that Skorzeny would have been the person who would have handled, who would have been the go-to person for American, not just the American CIA, also the Pentagon, even maybe more so. Okay, we need to set up a false flag explosion. We need to assassinate somebody. Skorzeny would be the person. He was the person who perfected it, and he trained.
But get him on American soil potentially, even.
I think he came to. I think sometimes he came to American soil. His wife definitely did. His wife had an office in New York.
What was her name again?
Ilse, Ilse Skorzeny.
And she cheated on him, right?
I don't know that, but I will tell you that she was far more involved in his shenanigans than anyone would think.
I think she fucked an Israeli spy.
Entirely possible.
I'll have to check that.
Entirely possible.
Yeah.
But she was far more involved in stuff than was let on. And he makes a very good case that the groups that she was a part of were fronts.
Okay.
And that she was a part of the Kennedy assassination.
She was.
Sure, because anything he was involved in, she was involved in.
Oh my God.
Again, it's wild, and I don't necessarily, it wouldn't be like if I have like 4 theories that I bat around, and it would be maybe 4 until that diary gets verified.
Just to reiterate, what are those 4?
So the 4 that I think...
Just the headlines. We'll dig into the ones we haven't.
Okay. Pentagon. Broadly speaking, Anti-Castro. Mm-hmm. Much more localized organized crime. In Dallas-based. That could go to some of the people surrounding an organized crime like Bonanno.
Okay.
And the coup in Dallas, Skorzeny, Lafitte plot.
What if it's a mix?
That's why this case is so crazy, because it can be. It could very easily be, because the Pentagon had a close relationship with Otto Skorzeny, according to Ganis. Specifically, Lemnitzer, who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and then gets reassigned because Kennedy and he do not get along very well at all, gets assigned to be the chief of NATO. In 63 and 62, when, if you wanted to have who's the person who's going to get Otto Skorzeny involved in something as big as the Kennedy assassination, it would be the Pentagon chief of NATO would be one of those guys. Now, Lemnitzer doesn't really figure into the date book. Is it that Angleton, who knew Lemnitzer, they're interacting with each other, right? So could there be a Pentagon plot on top of a Skorzeny plot? Sure. And then here's another one where it gets complicated. We know, and we have documentation, that Skorzeny was connected with some anti-Castro exiles who were involved.
Oh, of course he was.
Right?
Jesus Christ.
And so if you want to say, well, what would a smart person do? They'd have a plan A and a backup plan for Dallas for something that big. Was one of these two things? Was French assassins the plan A, which is what his coup in Dallas says? And
French assassins.
Yes. So the argument, what the claim is that Skorzeny reaches into his network of special operators out of Europe, and specifically a guy named Jean Sautre, I don't know how to pronounce the French. I think that's how you say his
enough.
name, who's been in the Kennedy assassination lore for a while. But again, if you could verify the ink on that and it tells you it's 1964 and 1963 when the date book was arranged, no one knew who Sautre was related to the Kennedy assassination back then. That's the kind of thing that people would be like, holy crap.
Yeah, it's a timeline issue.
Right.
Yeah.
So we got to find out that ink. But that's who Skorzeny went to. He went to these French OAS, the organization that was trying to kill de Gaulle, and basically got them to kill Kennedy. And so, but could there be a plan B connected to that? If he's smart, he'd have one. And who might he go to? Who might even be sort of a fallback patsy? Maybe the reason why there's so much good evidence for an anti-Castro writ large plot is that Skorzeny had them as the backup plan for a very deliberate reason.
Skorzeny had it.
Yeah. Like he reached into that and said, okay, this doesn't work, you guys kill him.
Meaning that under this line of theory, Skorzeny is just calling all the shots here. He's empowered to do that.
Yes, he's using Lafitte as sort of like a gopher, and then his ultimate plan is to involve these really high-level assassins out of Europe that he's used to using for other assassination-type events, and he turns them on John Kennedy, and that this isn't in the date book. Somebody could theoretically argue, well, he also has connection to the anti-Castro crowd, so maybe they were plan B. Or maybe the Pentagon had them as plan B, as the Supra involvement, because they definitely were involved with exiles in anti-Castro plots. Or maybe, and I tend to lean this way, it was just the broadly speaking anti-Castro crew who did it. And it's a combination of rogue CIA, Mafia, who are involved in the anti-Castro operations, and anti-Castro exiles. If you want to read a book or two books, my co-author on my King assassination books, Larry Hancock, he wrote what I think are two of the best books if you're really into detail. One is called Someone Would Have Talked, where he goes into a lot of depth that, yes, this actually did leak. It just didn't leak to the public consciousness. You know, the argument, no, if a plot like this existed, someone would have leaked it. Mm-hmm. He blows that up.
How so?
So he shows multiple credible instances in the investigations of people who were speaking like everything short of, we're going to kill Kennedy, including some people who actually flat out said it. He develops all of those individually.
How does he know they said that?
So it's in documents where, like, so for instance, there's an incident where a judge in Florida did a full investigation on a claim that there was a person at a store called the Parrot Jungle in Miami who said stuff to another person in there that was either overheard or was direct, and it was very suspicious, right? It wasn't like, we're going to kill Kennedy, but in light of what happened to John Kennedy, you go back to that statement, you're like, wow. This judge, who's a completely independent person, looked at all the witnesses to that claim, looked at the background of the person who likely leaked it and said something, and it all added up. So, for instance, the person who likely said it out loud and blabbed, and remember what I told you about exiles, right? He worked at the Fontainebleau Hotel, which is where all of these folks in Miami met to plot Castro assassination plots. Like, that was a mob hotel where exiles and CIA guys would meet.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. Please hit that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.